for a look at some of the stock movers we were talking about. Jenny Horne is here, host of Next Gen Investing, looking at the semiconductors on the move this morning. We'll start with a shift in policy regarding AI chip exports. What's with that story?
Yeah, further adding to all of the positivity on the macro front that you and Kevin just talked about is some positivity out of the Trump administration saying that it plans now to rescind some regulations that are expected to limit exports of AI chips worldwide. Now, per the Wall Street Journal, who first reported this story, the Commerce Department said on Wednesday afternoon it does not intend to implement now AI processor restrictions that were drawn up under the Biden administration. The curbs were set to go into effect on May 15th and would have limited sales more widely than the existing sanctions on the exports to China. So this is huge. The so-called AI diffusion rules were expected to reduce the long-term market for AI chips by an estimated, per B of A, 10%. So Nvidia said already in an emailed statement, we welcome the administration's leadership and new direction on AI policy. With the AI diffusion rule revoked, America will have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to lead the next included industrial revolution, they said. So, however, I do still want to mention, isn't it clear whether we will see this lead to alternative rules on chip exports, which could potentially mean even more concern. But as of right now, the White House has considered including AI processor limits as part of its bilateral agreements with individual countries. But more information is expected to come as President Donald Trump does have a planned visit to the Middle East next week, where AI chip exports are likely to be on the agenda. So there is the general expectation that right now under Trump, we will see the increase of total chips that are allowed to be sold, which begins with some of the relationships we have right now with Saudi Arabia as well as the UAE. So while China does still remain a bit challenged, this is definitely a sigh of relief for a lot of these chip makers and AI related names. As Nvidia, you can see shares have been pretty handily higher this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we heard Jensen Huang actually asking for this just a few days ago, sort of getting out there and clamoring, how about you lift some of the restrictions, repeal some of the things that are hindering our ability to do more deals. So that's good. This group could shine today. And folks have been a bit frustrated, right, with this group. And they wanted to know what happens with NVIDIA. We'll hear from NVIDIA later this month, but how much share they may have to give up to China now, maybe that helps a little bit.
I definitely think that this helps, and especially because as we know, the street doesn't like uncertainty. So this looming May 15th deadline now perhaps being cleared, although we need to hear officially from the White House. I definitely think this is a huge win. And I mean, you look at even names like AMD, which is also getting a nice lift today. AMD's risen now about 1.5% on the week, excluding even today's move. Nvidia has actually quietly had a pretty decent week, up 2.25%. So while both of these names remain well off of highs, I definitely think this is a step towards the right direction in rewriting some of the negativity that unfortunately has clouded these names without any fiscal value being tied to it. I know Nvidia said $1.5 billion they expect to be seen as an impact as a result of China, but right now, at least maybe clearing this hurdle is a sigh of relief for a challenge space at best.
Yeah, and then we have ARM. You can't run AI without ARM, says the CEO. I think that's a great quote. Some of your thoughts on ARM today?
So ARM with a bit of a different story, as we did see its own outlook pretty disappointing as far as the expectations were concerned. So right now, ARM did see, higher fourth quarter sales boosted by the continued adoption of chips. But they did, again, outlook missed expectations. So sales jumped 34%, which is just always, frankly, amazing when these companies are still able to grow at such a sizable rate on a year-over-year basis. Their royalty revenue, though, did rise 18%, which the company attributed largely to the adoption of their ARMv9 architecture and increased usage of their chips in data centers, as well as license and other revenue climbed 53%, fueled by some normal fluctuations in timing and also the size of some of the multiple high-value license agreements and contributions from their backlog. So now, for the current quarter, they're guiding for adjusted earnings per share between 30 and 38 cents and 1 to 1.1 billion in sales. Both of those figures, you could say that is a miss as far as at least adjusted earnings, but Sales, on the other hand, came in pretty much at the high end of expectations, or if you take the range, it would be a slight miss at the midpoint. So that's, I think, what some of the weakness is, and also seeing that right now regarding ARM and some of the commentary, like you mentioned from their CEO, this is not going to be as insulated from, again, some of the drama between here and Asia, specifically China, as perhaps was the read. So seeing a bit of a mixed reaction from the street today. A lot of analysts like Deutsche Bank was one benchmark that are all right now updating their coverage. I will say it's not all to the downside. Benchmark is one actually reiterating its hold. But then you have Deutsche Bank, on the other hand, actually trimming its price target, I think, to adjust for perhaps, again, that those lowered expectations now for the coming quarter.
All right, Jenny Horne, it's great to see you. Anything else on your mind? A busy day ahead here. ARM in focus with a down arrow, but the big picture, we have some up arrows this morning. A quick thought?
I will say that in regards to this market, I was listening to you and Kevin. I do think that from a macro standpoint, things have looked, vastly improving from where we were just several weeks ago. And I think it's all about right now how you look at the headlines. I think the headlines became so negative, so recessionary and fear-mongering that now it's a bit of a relief to see things finally at least looking more honest and more actually logical to some of the data we've been getting, because hard data, I know maybe outside of some of the revisions we're expecting to get to GDP, has looked so solid that some of these headlines, well, I tend to roll my eyes at, the markets don't. So it's been so refreshing to see things finally hold, and some of these rallies actually hold, throughout the sessions like we've seen even yesterday.
All right, and I was just looking, ARM 1 month is up 40%, Nvidia 1 month up 20%. So if folks were buying when everybody was nervous, they made some good money in a short period of time. Jenny Horne, great to see you. Thank you.